All right, everyone, welcome back to JYR Trades, and today is March 31st. Can you believe that we're already finishing the end of March and we're already getting ready to start April tomorrow? All right, so don't get fooled tomorrow with the market, right on April Fool's Day, right? All right, so welcome back as always, guys. Everything that I share on this channel, everything that I show you guys here is for educational purposes. It's not financial advice, but if you do want to learn market structure, auction theory, you want to become a better trader, you're in the right place. So if you want to continue learning on this journey with me, please subscribe, hit that like, share, and comments. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, guys. So today's session was a perfect example of a trap, rotation, and expansion day. All right, and it's one of the biggest lessons that was it's one of the biggest lessons. Well, one of the biggest lessons was understanding the difference between liquidity myths and acceptance in POCs, because there is a difference between those two. Sometimes we can get trapped thinking they have the same weight, but they do not. All right, so guys, today price did open inside value with the POCs centered and only one mid, all right, leaking south. All right, at first glance, you know, when you look, it looked like the market wanted to push lower because of that one mid, but that was just liquidity baits. That's all it was, liquidity to bait you. The market initially moved down to grab liquidity, failed to accept value below, and then reversed into a strong expansive move to the upside. All right, this is where understanding market structure, guys, auction theory, and liquidity behavior becomes so critical. In this breakdown, guys, for this video, I'm going to go over why the downside move was a trap, why the POCs carry more weight than the mids, and how to identify trap days versus true directional days. Okay, how the expansion phase developed later in the session. And this is the type of day, guys, that builds real confidence, all right, and separates guessing from structure trading. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. All right, guys, so again, today was what you call a classic trap day, all right? POCs, all right, I'm sorry. If you don't understand this type of day, it will mess you up. I mean, plain and simple. Because you think the market's going to go one direction and then it starts going in a different direction. All right, so where did we open, guys, today, first of all? So let's go ahead and look. So this white line and this white line that you see here represents New York value, ladies and gentlemen. So that right there is telling us that we are inside value. So automatically we may be thinking, well, are we going to rotate? Are we going to balance out? Okay. Now the next question is, or the next thing that I looked at when I saw today, guys, is really simple. I had one mid right here that was practically in the center. Okay. When I measured our London mid to the New York Valley area high, we were 160 points. And then if you look at the other side, we were nearly identical at about 120 points. So pretty much centered. And then interestingly, we had our two POCs, these two red lines here, one for London, one for Asia. They were centered. But where is our Asia mid? Our Asia mid was leaking south. Okay, so one mid was leaking south. At first glance, when I looked at this, I thought it was going to be bearish initially. Initially, that's what I thought. But there was something that my intuition, my guts were telling me to not completely trust that narrative. Okay? Now, the mistake I made today, and I think it's a relatable moment that almost any trader can relate to this, is this. The market moved down a little bit. So let's, oh, my bad here. The market moved down. So here we go. Now, I will say right off the bat, guys, today's migration, post-migration, was a short one. I mean, you can see within a matter of 4 or 5 minutes we migrated, and it was very, very small. So that tells us that the value of the auction zero didn't have to go much higher or much lower. Okay. However, there was one clue right there automatically that was kind of giving us where price might actually go in the end, the real direction. But here's a mistake that I made initially, guys. I thought when I saw that the market initially moved a little bit down, I saw a little bit of a movement up, and then it looked like it wanted to push down. I made a mistake, and I put a short entry here because my Remitar also gave me a short entry. Now, I've always told you guys that is not the real move. Okay. Now, I've seen that particularly when we are in repair days, that means that we are opening outside value. This usually gives us the correct way the market wants to go, but it doesn't mean that we automatically enter. Okay, on rotational days, I've noticed that this is not the real type of way to go. In other words, when market opens inside the value. All right, so I took a short, something fell off. Okay, and I did get some profit, and I got out. To be honest with you though, I started coming back, and as soon as I saw that my profit was about to go, I got out, and I ended up having a very small loss. I don't know, like a $30 loss or something like that. But good thing that I listened to that intuition. I think I got out somewhere around here, guys, to be honest with you. All right, and boy, was I glad that I did. I listened to my intuition, and the reason why, guys, and this is the truth, okay? And this is what I want you to understand. This is a teaching moment that I want you guys to understand. Remember that I said that the POCs were centered in, okay? They were centered. They were not agreeing with that move. In other words, they were not agreeing that we necessarily had to go down, okay? Eventually, guys, what did I see? Okay, price goes up. Okay, my Remitar, I got different Remitar versions here, by the way, as you can see here. All right, and you can see, first things first, I have this Remitar version that tells me it's a no trade zone. Once it started clearing, it started going up, and here is where I took my first trade. I took a first trade right around here. We left the liquidity box. I targeted not even the 50, or I think it was right about around there, and I decided to take a quick scalp. I still wasn't sure about if that market was going to eventually turn around, because this is what was fooling me. This one mid, it was really fooling me. Okay, now price ended up reclaiming. Okay, and notice what happened. Reclaimed. All right, the auction zero. After the auction zero on Remitar, the actual move, the structure shifted, and you can see that from there on, price simply started to move. All right, I did take a trade here, and for some reason I still hesitated. Took an exit, a small win, and then I saw it coming back, and I was like, well, maybe my hunch was right. But then that's when I realized that New York PM usually is the one that delivers the expansion. And here my Remitar was telling me this is a no trade zone. We already had the rejection here, and guess what happened? Price started to move. Once I saw that price went past previous day high, I took an entry, exited out here. Towards the end of the day, guys, I ended up having like a 1500 plus day. Okay, I had 4 trades. The first one was a minor loss. The rest were in between. Okay, different numbers for the wins. But here's the lesson, guys. All right, in this particular setup, the way we had price inside New York value, one mid's in the middle, agreeing with both POCs here, but one is leaking south. Guys, the POC shows the truth. And what was this mid doing down here? It was a liquidity bait. It was to trap traders trying to short because they saw this particular mid here. That's what it did. Now, if the POCs had been down here, leaning south, and this particular mid also leaning south, then there's a good chance that we would have gone for a short expansion. But because the mids were centered, right? I mean, one mid was centered and the POCs were agreeing. The reality is that this was telling us that there was no agreement to go down. There was no agreement to push south. All right. In my opinion, guys, this is a type of day that builds real understanding, not just profits. Okay. Once I saw that, once I realized and I understand this concept that the POCs have more power, more weight than the mids, and you got one mid agreeing, okay, and price is going in the direction away from the other mid, then more than likely the expansion is going to happen. Once we come back to the auction zero and we get a rejection, notice the move came from the top, rejection, and that's when the real move began. My other Remitar version here showed me once we rejected off of this, the final piece here, that was the beginning of it right there in New York. And it literally, it's when New York PM got started. So yeah, it was a different day from yesterday. Yesterday we opened inside value, yes, similar. But what happened yesterday? Yesterday we had an expansion south. If I recall yesterday we had one mid 70% of the way down inside, one POC right above, okay, the New York Value area low. The other POC and the other mid were outside leaking below. That was the difference. But again, you have to look at the entire storyline. Today we price entered inside New York value. Mids were literally centered, guys. They were not necessarily the POCs were centered. One mid agreed, the other one was leaking south. And I'm gonna be honest, that one was kind of tricking me, but something kept telling me. I wasn't sure. That's why when I took that initial short, I exited right away, because I saw, I'm like, there's something just not right about it. But now we know. Okay. All right, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this content, enjoy this understanding. Remember that in the pinned comments that I'm going to have below each video, I'm going to have the video journaling notes for the day, so you can always go back and look at them, and hopefully will help you remember. The more days we go over this similar situation, similar disguises, eventually something's going to click. It's happening for me, and eventually it will happen for you. Alright, as always, guys, everything that I share here is educational content. It's not financial advice. But if you are learning a gold nugget each day here with me, please hit that subscribe button. Join along my journey. Hit that share, like, and comments. I would love to hear from some of you guys. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to respond as soon as I can. Till next time.